it's a good bounce back win for us today. I thought we started the game with the right tone on the defensive end. And so that was
Everyone thought the drama had ended once Team USA clinched the gold in Paris, but the real story was unfolding behind closed doors. Now, the final piece of the puzzle has fallen. After months of intense scrutiny, criticism, and whispers of internal sabotage, Team USA's head coach Cheryl Reeve has officially stepped down. Of course, the official statement frames this as a routine contract expiration, or a mutual decision to part ways, but anyone paying attention knows the real story is far messier. A window into what happens when the powers that be clash with the world's most popular athlete. It seems the decision to leave Caitlin Clark off the Olympic roster didn't just cost Team USA in public goodwill and potential revenue. It may have ultimately cost Reeve her job. To understand why this resignation is such a shock, we have to rewind to the moment it all began. The controversy ignited with the release of the 2024 Olympic roster. One name was glaringly absent: Caitlin Clark. This wasn't just a minor omission, it felt like a deliberate statement. Clark was shattering viewership records, selling out arenas, and single-handedly breathing new life into a sport that had struggled for decades, and yet she was told she wasn't ready for the international stage. Fans erupted, accusations of gatekeeping flew across social media, but soon, all attention turned to the person at the center of it all, head coach Cheryl Reeve. Almost immediately, online sleuths dug into Reeve's past comments and actions, and the picture they painted wasn't flattering. What had started as a basketball decision quickly became a story of personal bias and old guard jealousy. Rumors suggested the choice to bench Clark had less to do with experience or defense, and more to do with sending a message. Don't step out of line before paying your dues. Rather than embrace the rising star of the sport, the leadership seemed intent on dimming her spotlight, and Reeve was squarely at the eye of the storm. The tension didn't begin with the Olympic roster. It had been simmering long before Clark played a single professional minute. Reeve had made social media remarks that many interpreted as subtle jabs at the rookie sensation. As the preseason hype swelled, she openly criticized the media's focus on one player, insisting people should look at the league as a whole. In theory, that's a reasonable stance, but for millions of new fans drawn in by Clark, it came off as bitterness. It seemed like the establishment resented the rookie from Iowa stealing attention from the veterans. Every time Reeve brushed off a Clark-related question or rolled her eyes at the coverage, the public interpreted it as a personal vendetta. One moment in particular set the tone: a social media post after a preseason game, where Reeve suggested that the audience was tuning in more for the opposing team than for Clark. Small perhaps, but it fueled the narrative of us versus them. On one side, a wave of new fans clamoring to watch the most exciting player on earth. On the other, the old guard, led by Reeve, insisting that tradition and control mattered more than the fans. Then came the numbers, and they told a stark story. While the WNBA enjoyed its most successful season ever thanks to Clark's influence, the Olympic TV ratings told a very different story. The gold medal game performed reasonably well, but nowhere near its potential. Analysts called it a marketing disaster. Leaving Clark off the roster had turned what could have been a ratings bonanza into a missed opportunity. NBC, the network broadcasting the games, was reportedly frustrated behind the scenes. They had counted on Clark to drive historic viewership, and instead they got an ordinary turnout. The coach and committee had prioritized basketball purity over fan engagement. They may have won the medal, but they lost the court of public opinion. The basketball reasoning for leaving Clark behind started to unravel when critics examined the roster itself. The official argument: she lacked experience and physicality, but Clark's strengths, passing, court spacing, and offensive versatility were precisely the areas where Team USA struggled, especially in tight contests like the nail-biting matchup against France. What seemed like a strategic decision on paper was increasingly viewed as a costly misstep, and the fallout is still reverberating. The question now isn't just about basketball, it's about accountability, power, and what happens when the game's rising star challenges the status quo. Social media erupted with one refrain: you know who could fix this? Caitlin Clark. Every missed shot, every turnover by Team USA was viewed through the lens of the absent star. The player who wasn't there cast a longer shadow than anyone anyone on the court. The situation turned tense when reporters started asking pointed questions, and instead of diffusing the pressure, the coach went on the offensive. Press conferences became electric with tension. Reeve dismissed rumors of personal bias against Clark and claimed she was taking the bullets for the organization. It was a bold, defiant stance, but it only amplified the storm. By framing herself as the protector of the committee, Reeve inadvertently became the face of the controversy. Every interview became a clash, with the coach defending her decisions while fans flooded social media demanding change. The pressure kept mounting, and it became clear that no gold medal could erase the toxicity surrounding the program. It wasn't only fans who were frustrated. Even inside the basketball world, murmurs of discontent were growing. While players publicly supported the coach, private conversations painted a very different picture. Agents and marketing executives saw a glaring missed opportunity. The Olympics is the ultimate stage. Imagine the viral highlights, merchandise sales, and global exposure if Clark had been dazzling fans from 30 feet in Paris. That chance was lost, and in professional sports, losing revenue often stings more than losing games. Reeve's "taking bullets" comment was especially telling. She admitted the backlash was severe, but in doing so, she also cast herself as a martyr. To the public, it reinforced the sense that the establishment believed it knew better than the fans. It was a textbook disconnect between the product and its audience. Fans wanted Clark. The committee and coach refused to deliver. In any other industry, ignoring your customers this flagrantly usually ends in leadership changes. And that is exactly what unfolded. Throughout the WNBA season, the contrast was undeniable. The Indiana Fever's explosive popularity highlighted Team USA's rigid approach. Fever games were events. Away arenas sold out. Jersey sales skyrocketed. Even Tuesday night broadcasts drew higher ratings than NBA playoff matchups. Meanwhile, conversation around Team USA was almost entirely negative. Early blowout wins in the Olympics did little to silence critics. Social media remained flooded with "Where is Caitlin?" The roster's shadow was inescapable, and the gold medal's shine felt muted. Then came the rivalry narrative. Many saw the veteran's tough physical play against Clark in the WNBA season as a direct extension of the Olympic snub. Reeve, seen as the general of that old guard, oversaw hard fouls, relentless defense, and intense physicality aimed at breaking the rookie's spirit. But instead of faltering, Clark thrived. She shattered records, led the league in assists, racked up triple doubles, and proved that the experience argument against her was invalid long before the Olympics even began. The matchup against France became a critical turning point. Team USA, packed with MVPs and all-stars, barely edged out a French team that, on paper, should have been overmatched. The Americans eked out a 67-66 victory. Critics pounced, pointing to stagnant offense and over-reliance on isolation scoring. Exactly the problems Clark's playmaking solves. Watching the team struggle while the world's best passer stayed home solidified the perception that the roster was fundamentally flawed. They won, yes, but they didn't dominate. After the Olympics, the silence was telling. Normally, a gold medal winning coach enjoys a victory lap, talk show appearances, feature profiles, and discussions about the next cycle. For Reeve, there was mostly quiet. The victory felt hollow, overshadowed by the controversy that refused to fade. Then the announcement came. Cheryl Reeve would not be returning. On the surface, she framed it as her own decision, saying she had done her time and was ready for a new chapter. But insiders suggest the reality was far more complicated. The pressure had simply become too intense. USA basketball needed a reset, a clean break from the controversy ahead of the 2028 Olympics in Los Angeles. The timing of her departure couldn't be more strategic. With the next Olympics on home soil, it's essentially mandatory that Caitlin Clark be the face of the team. Retaining the same coach who had snubbed her in 2024 would have been a PR disaster, making it nearly impossible to market the team effectively. By removing Reeve, USA basketball is clearing the way, eliminating the villain from the story, and setting the stage for the star to shine. There's also the matter of culture fit. Reeve's coaching style is famously tough, defense first, and old school. It has produced championships, but it clashes with the fast-paced, space and speed style that Clark embodies. This wasn't merely a personal conflict, it was philosophical. The previous WNBA era prioritized grit, physicality, and post-play. Clark represents the new era: long-range shooting, lightning-quick pace, and court spacing. Reeves' exit signals that USA Basketball recognizes the need to evolve if they want to continue winning, and just as importantly, if they want to keep fans engaged. Media scrutiny played a huge role in this outcome. Major voices, like Stephen A. Smith and Pat McAfee, relentlessly criticized the decision to leave Clark off the Olympic roster. They called it foolish, jealous, and short-sighted. For the first time, women's basketball coaching decisions were under the same spotlight as the NFL or NBA. Reeve wasn't just facing beat reporters, she was being publicly dissected on ESPN during prime time. That kind of heat is exhausting. It turns the job into a nightmare. Facing the prospect of navigating Clark's future with that constant pressure, it's easy to see why she stepped away. Her resignation also serves as a clear victory for the fans. For months, they were dismissed, told they didn't understand basketball, told to trust the experts. But ultimately, the fans won the argument. Their collective voice proved louder than titles or accolades. They made it clear they would not support a team that sidelined its brightest star. This marks a significant shift in the sports world's power dynamics. In the digital era, the audience has a seat at the table. You can't simply dictate to fans anymore. You have to engage them. And there's another layer to consider: player relationships. While Team USA players publicly showed support for Cheryl Reeve, the atmosphere in the locker room had to be complicated. These athletes aren't naive. They understand where the money flows. Caitlin Clark's rise isn't just about highlight reels. It drives higher salaries, charter flights, bigger endorsements, and packed arenas. That's the Clark effect. Deep down, many players likely recognize that alienating the source of this growth was a poor business move. Reeve had inadvertently become the antagonist in Clark's story, and that was bad for the league's overall brand. So what happens next? With Reeve stepping down, the search for a new coach is underway, and there's one unspoken requirement: the coach must be able to work with Caitlin Clark. Whoever takes the role will need to embrace the modern, fast-paced offense, understand the marketing side of the game, and manage the circus that comes with a superstar of Clark's magnitude. The 2028 team will be her team, an offense built around her, led by a coach willing to hand her the keys. This saga is ultimately a lesson in ego versus reality. Cheryl Reeve is a legendary coach with a trophy case to prove it. No one can take that away, but she allowed either pride or rigid adherence to tradition to blind her to the reality of the moment. She tried to treat Clark like any other rookie, failing to see that Clark was more than a player. She was a movement. You can't bench a movement. You can't humble a tidal wave of talent. By trying to block it, Reeve was swept aside. The consequences will ripple through the league for years. This episode exposes the divide between the WNBA's past and its future. Reeves' resignation is a white flag from the old guard, an acknowledgement that resisting the new era is futile. The gatekeepers have lost their hold. The sport now belongs to the next generation. Any leader unwilling to accept that reality is likely to meet the same fate. Looking ahead, Clark's integration into the senior national team is inevitable. The 2024 Olympic snub will become part of her legend, a chip on her shoulder that fueled her ascent. Just like Michael Jordan being cut from his high school varsity team, a myth that shaped his story, Clark being left off Team USA will be the narrative we tell to explain her drive. And in that story, Cheryl Reeve will be the antagonist, the coach who didn't recognize the obstacle that needed to be removed. In the end, Team USA secured their gold medal, but they left much of the goodwill on the table. Reeve's departure signals a changing of the guard, a clear acknowledgement that you cannot resist the future of the sport. Caitlin Clark's influence will only continue to grow, and the next leadership group will almost certainly construct a team around her. It's a harsh lesson in modern sports. Talent wins games, but superstars build empires. Ignoring that reality is a fireable offense. Reeve thought she could outlast the hype, the media, and the fan base, but she lost. The fans won. Caitlin Clark won, and now Team USA has a clean slate to finally give the people what they want. After the Olympics, the silence surrounding Reeve was telling. Normally, a gold medal winning coach enjoys a victory lap, talk shows, glowing profiles, and planning for the next cycle. For her, there was mostly quiet. The triumph felt hollow, overshadowed by controversy. Then came the news she wouldn't be returning. Though she framed it as a personal choice, insiders say the pressure had simply become too great. USA Basketball was in desperate need of a reset. They had to distance themselves from the controversy before the 2028 Olympics Olympics in Los Angeles. The timing of Cheryl Reeve's departure couldn't be more strategic. With the games on home soil, it's essentially mandatory that Caitlin Clark be the face of the team. Retaining the coach who had snubbed her in 2024 would have been a public relations disaster, making it nearly impossible to promote the team effectively with tension lingering in the locker room. By removing Reeve now, USA Basketball is clearing the way. They are eliminating the villain of the story, making space for the hero's return. Culture fit is also a major factor. Reeve is known for her hard-nosed, defense-first coaching style. It's one that has won championships, but it clashes with the modern pace and space game that Clark represents. This wasn't just a personal clash, it was philosophical. The previous WNBA era valued grit, physicality, and post play. Clark embodies the new generation: long-range shooting, lightning-quick pace, and spacing that stretches defenses. Reeve's exit signals that USA Basketball understands the game has changed, and if they want to keep winning, and more importantly keep fans engaged, they have to change with it. Media pressure amplified the situation. High-profile commentators like Stephen A. Smith and Pat McAfee relentlessly criticized the 2024 roster decision, calling it foolish, jealous, and short-sighted. That mainstream scrutiny brought a level of public attention to women's basketball coaching decisions never seen before. Reeve wasn't just facing reporters, she was being dissected on national television during prime time.